See, she cried, pointing with an arm on which the rags fluttered in the rising wind toward the forest to glow in the distance. See where they await us? The woods are alive. Already the great ones are there, and the dance will soon begin. The salve is here. Anoint yourself and come. Though a moment before the sky was clear and cloudless, yet even while she spoke, the face of the moon grew dark, and the wind began to toss in the crests of the plane trees at its feet. Stray gusts brought the sounds of hoarse singing and crying from the lower slopes of the hill, and the pungent odor he had already noticed about the courtyard of the inn rose about him in the air. "Transform! Transform!" she cried again, her voice rising like a song. "Rub well your skin before you fly. Come with me to the Sabbath, to the madness of its furious delight, to the sweet abandonment of its evil worship. See, the great ones are there, and the terrible sacraments prepared. The throne is occupied. Anoint and come! Anoint and come!" She grew to the height of a tree beside him, leaping upon the wall with flaming eyes and hair strewn upon the night. He too began to change swiftly. Her hands touched the skin of his face and neck, streaking him with the burning salve that sent the old magic into his blood with the power before which fades all that is good. A wild roar came up to his ears from the heart of the wood, and the girl, when she heard it, leaped upon the wall in the frenzy of her wicked joy. "Satan is there!" she screamed, rushing upon him and striving to draw him with her to the edge of the wall. "Satan has come! The sacraments call us. Come with your dear apostate soul. We will worship and dance till the moon dies and the world is forgotten." Just saving himself from the dreadful plunge, Vezin struggled to release himself from her grasp, while the passion tore at his reins and all but mastered him. He shrieked aloud, not knowing what he said, and then he shrieked again. It was the old impulses, the old awful habits instinctively finding voice, for though it seemed to him that he merely shrieked nonsense, the words he uttered really had meaning in them and were intelligible. It was the ancient call, and it was heard below. It was answered. The wind whistled at the skirts of his coat as the air round him darkened with many flying forms crowding upwards out of the valley. The crying of hoarse voices smote upon his ears, coming closer. Strokes of wind buffeted him, tearing him this way and that along the crumbling top of the stone wall, and Ilse clung to him with her long, shining arms, smooth and bare, holding him fast about the neck. But not Ilse alone, for a dozen of them surrounded him, dropping out of the air. The pungent odor of the anointed body stifled him, excited him to the old madness of the Sabbath. The dance of the witches and sorcerers doing honor to the personified evil of the world. "Anoint and away! Anoint and away!" they cried in wild chorus about him. "To the dance that never dies, to the sweet and fearful fantasy of evil." Algernon Blackwood is just one of my favorite authors. His writing is so visceral, so dynamic. He's able to take a landscape and make it really come alive, and really, yeah, it's the atmosphere that he brings to his prose. It's just really so dynamic. Blackwood is probably best known for the novella The Willows, which is, simply put, one of the greatest horror stories ever written. It was H.P. Lovecraft's favorite tale, and it really holds up. I just reread that, and this collection, Ancient Sorceries and Other Stories, which it has the story that I read from earlier, Ancient Sorceries, which was a John Silence story. And John Silence is probably his most endearing character. Just a great occult detective. The entire run of John Silence stories are just terrific. And, I've been reading a lot of Silence here lately. I really considered just discussing The Willows today, but, since I've had Silence on my mind so much of late, I thought, I should read from it. But, so this book has The Listener, The Seafit, and the Willows, in addition to the John Silence tale. And it's just a great book. You know, it was put out by Pushkin Press, and it's got a little error on the front, so they got a sticker. Kind of neat. But it's on the back, it says Blackwood wrote some of the finest spectral literature of this or any age. He is the one absolute and unquestioned master of weird atmosphere. H.P. Lovecraft. Truer words have never been spoken. Yeah, Blackwood for atmosphere, for just the sheer, well, you could see from the excerpt that I read from Ancient Sorceries, just, you know, how dynamic that was, and how exciting. Blackwood has that indefinable way of capturing a scene and making you be a part of it in a way that, like, I think of the willows. The willow trees themselves are alive, and you get that sense of animism in his writing, in that everything is touched by spirit that has life and purpose, and that overwhelming sense of danger, that foreboding that just permeates everything he writes. It's just, you know, it's delicious stuff. And you know, obviously when I was thinking of doing the March of the Magicians, Blackwood was right there at the forefront of my mind, because his fiction is just so compelling. So I hope that if you've not read Blackwood, that you'll take a chance. If nothing else, you really should read The Willows. But I highly recommend his John Silence tales as well. So that's all I have for you today. Enjoy the rest of your week. I should have an interesting little video tomorrow, I think, just showing off some things that I picked up at the bookstore. So until then, take care of yourselves and each other.